Genesis Radio.
Yeah.
Genesis'88radio.com.
Yeah.
Basically grew out of my party organisation, which was Genesis'88. We were doing parties in 1988, basically. 1988 to 1990. That period of time was called Acid House. And that was where the whole rave culture came from. Even the term rave. The term rave was actually given to rave by the British newspapers. Not us.
Okay.
You see, when you look back in history and culture, for example, the term graffiti writers. It wasn't graffiti writers that called graffiti writers. Yeah, you ask any graffiti writer and he's a writer. It was the media that called them graffiti writers. So sometimes, you know, it's not us that give these things its meaning or its names. You know, it's actually come from the place where we actually think it isn't coming from. It's not coming from us. You know, it's coming from corporations and, you know, and tables of marketing departments. We're all trying to find ways of tapping into something, you know, and that's what's happened with acid house and rave. You know, we called it acid house, but they called it rave. You know, and so I've never actually called it rave because I really don't like that word, because the word rave comes from the 50s. You know, my dad is from Jamaica. You know, my dad was saying when I was a kid, he used to go to raves. So for us, when we were young, we were hearing, so when we started doing parties, and they started calling them raves, we were like, no, this is new. My dad went to raves. This is, you know, we don't go to what my dad went to. You know, we go to parties and acid house. And so that was one of the biggest cultural movements in the world. You know, not just in the UK. It happened in France. It happened all over Europe too. And I was part of that, you know, and so from that, and now recently, there's been a lot of recent new interest, you know, because like when you can watch documentaries about rock and roll and the Rolling Stones and all of these things, you know, if we're going to we'll use it rave culture, just so we all understand what we're talking about at the moment. Yeah. But, you know, rave culture is as big as rock and roll. It was as big as any musical genre that went before that, you know, disco, whatever. So it really deserves its own history. And now, you know, people, the media companies are recognising that, and so we are seeing a lot of books. I mean, at the moment, I'm probably in about 30 books, you know, so it's been recognised, and people are reinvestigating it and giving it the recognition that it actually deserved, you know, because we were doing this completely illegally. You know, everyone was against us. You know, we had armies of policemen out every weekend to stop us, you know, and we didn't want to stop, and we wasn't going to stop. You know, the movement was too big. It was bigger than the police. It was bigger than governments. It was bigger than us. And we wasn't prepared to let that slip past, you know, because London before that was a very violent place. And, you know, rave culture came along, acid house came along, brought MDMA with it, and suddenly it was a different place, you know. And so we're trying to reignite that passion in people with Genesis'88 Radio. And so I'm going to be inviting DJs from all around the world to basically come and play all different types of music. I'm not interested in it just being one type of music. I'm really interested in creating a global network, you know, and different music. I don't care where the music comes from. If it's music and people enjoy it, we're playing. And that's what we're about. We're about painting a picture. And that's what we do at Genesis'88 Radio.
And how is the work you broadcast on the radio connected to the parties you're still organizing? Like
sure. The radio is really only connected insofar as I'm involved. I created the Genesis Radio. I've just started doing Genesis events again, and that's where the radio come from. So, I mean, I've got some new plans. I mean, Genesis. You know, I wrote a book called Class of '88, The True Acid House Experience.
Yeah, can you tell a bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, the book was my experience, and because, again, you know, we wasn't being recognised for what we did. You know, the fact is, it wasn't easy to organise parties for 10,000, 20,000 people. You know, secretly, you know, we had secret locations, we broke into buildings, you know, and then we had to get people from one area to another in a really short amount of time, because everything was secret. So no one would know where the venue was. So we'd have a meeting point, you'd go to that meeting point, if you looked cool, you looked like you were one of us, they would tell you where the party was. You know, or, you know, we'd all meet at a meeting point, it might be 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and then we're just all going to the warehouse at the same time. You know, we always used to make fake leases and fake documents saying that we hired the building through the right channel, you know, but really we did it on a typewriter and a photocopier, you know. And so I'd wear a suit, and I would just go out to the policeman and tell them that we own the building. You know, so and that's how we did it. We'd go out there, convince them that we were here legally, you know, that we'd been in the building 2 weeks, you know, when we've been in the building 4 hours, you know, and then we just have a massive party. And then at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, you know, we just go home, and then they realised that we'd broken into there, you know. So that's what we did then. You know, again, it was in every single newspaper was against us. In the newspapers, all the national newspapers, they were saying that we were selling drugs to 12-year-olds. And, you know, it was their aim to get the public to hate us. And this is what happens in any kind of movement of people. It's important. I mean, we see it today in the news. Every day you can see it happening in the news, and they did it to us. They needed the public to hate us. So if they hated us, 1, they could come and beat us with their truncheons, and 2, they can change the law. And that's what it's really all about. It was all about changing the law and restricting our freedom even more.
And so your book is talking about this period and what really happened?
Yeah, so the book, yes, I'm going off the book. Yeah, so that's what my book says. Again, no one was interested, so I wrote a book. I didn't know if anyone was going to publish the book. I didn't know if anyone was going to be interested in the book. And it just so happens, I was lucky. Yeah. I drove Virgin, got on the phone, kept phoning them, and in the end they said yes. And so the book was published, and it just and it gave us true story, because most people didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. You know, most people didn't know that I was kidnapped by gangsters, and you know, the newspapers were saying that we were earning £500,000 every night. You know, so it attracted gangsters, and so on one side we had the police who were trying to beat us, on the other side we had gangsters who were trying to beat us and take our money. So, and we were all trying to be peaceful, loving people, drinking water, you know. So, you know.
Okay, and what are your plans for the radio in the future? Like, what do you think it's gonna do?
With the radio, you know, the thing with internet radio is not many people listen to it over here. So again, I find it a bit of a challenge, you know, and to change the way that people listen to radio, and that's why I will turn the radio into a commercial-like body, you know, to try and, you know, to make people. Because, I mean, the radio station you can get on your iPhones, you can get it on your mobile phones. So you can take it with you anywhere you go now. So that's really the aim, to get Genesis to, like, you know, have thousands and thousands of listeners, basically.